You want to talk about exciting, and I know that I'm waving a Canadian flag here as we beam this signal around the world. But boy, what a proud night in Vancouver for all of us who are Canadian. As Milos Raonic, our young tennis sensation, led that Canadian team against a very stuffy Italian side. I must tip my cap to them to make it through to the semi-finals of the Davis Cup. And I know someone else is a very proud Canadian, although she wasn't in Vancouver. She has been many times, and she joins us from Florida on the line right now. Carling Bassett-Seguso, a Canadian icon, one of my favorites, and I'm delighted that she's managed to find some time for us this morning. Good morning, Carling.
Good morning, Brian. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am.
Well, you go ahead and tell us now, because I know that you were had some other engagement last night, but you came home and you got on the internet or wherever and you saw what was going on. What were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I mean, it was so close, and seeing the doubles. I mean, I can't even imagine 15-13. Yes, and I mean, you got to be proud of those boys because Nestor and Pospisil, just coming back after 2 sets down is really that's one of the hardest things to have to face. And
Carling, I wanted to just interrupt you for a second. Daniel Nestor is one of the most unsung Canadian heroes that we've had for years. Do you not agree?
Yes, I do.
Time and time again he does this. How many Wimbledon titles he's won? I've lost count now. He's just one of the world's greatest double players, and he's a quiet, unassuming guy. He doesn't market himself really well, but he's just a stud and has been for this Canadian team long before Milos Raonic came along.
Well, that's what the credit is due. People don't realize how important that doubles match is, and I do, just because my husband, Robert Seguso, has played Davis Cup so many times, and it's come down a lot of the time, to the doubles. It's so important to get that point. And, the singles just as, but it's just a relief because, to go up 2-1 is really, and, you have to win 2 more matches, obviously, to win. And I have to tell you, I'm just so happy for them because to go down as the first Canadian men's Davis Cup team in the history to get to the semis is something that I think they'll all go to the grave with. And there's no other greater feeling, especially when you're playing for your country. And although I'm in America right now, I'm waving my Canadian flag too. So I hope they can get through the semis. So
when I see Coach Martin Larando there on the sidelines, it takes me back to the previous bunch of Canadian guys that were always playing without nearly this success. It must be a wonderful sort of sweet moment for him to share that as a coach.
Well, he's done such a great job. He actually trained a lot of the boys down here from Canada at IMG. And throughout his junior career, I always saw how hard he worked and how disciplined he was. And then he carried that on, obviously, to being a phenomenal Canadian coach. And you got to give credit where credit is due. And sometimes you have to look at how they were in the juniors, their personalities, and there's no better pick for the men's Davis Cup team than Martin.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, and the players have nothing but good to say about him. Now, let me change gears for a second and take you back to thinking about Wimbledon, okay? And as I've told you before in our conversations, during my time as the GM of the Craig Lockhart Sports Centre, where I had 6 grass courts and 18 all-weathers, National Tennis Centre over there in Edinburgh, I was with the LTA for 6 years and understand Wimbledon very well. I have said to everyone who will listen to me that Milos Raonic, and I'm not hanging this around his neck, has got the perfect type of game to win the men's singles title at Wimbledon. Do you agree or disagree?
I definitely agree, but there's so many different elements to, winning Wimbledon or any other huge Grand Slam event, because it's not just the game. It's the preparation. It's the focus. You have to win. It's 5 matches, and he has the game. It comes down to the head.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And folks, the reason I say Wimbledon, and he has the game for it, for those of you who aren't tennis players, obviously if you have a big serve at Wimbledon, it serves you in good stead because you're playing on grass and it comes across low and so much faster. But you're quite right, there's so much more to it. But of anyone, and again, I'm not putting pressure, I'm just saying because of his serve, and he's obviously been improving his return of serve, I think once he continues to grow and mature, goodness gracious, Carling, you played when you were 16. He's like an old man compared to when you were playing, but still, he's only 23 or 24 years old. I think as he grows and matures and gets more experience, that'll stand him in good stead as well.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's nothing that can replace winning. And going into tournaments, if you have that confidence, it's so critical that prior to coming into these Grand Slam events that you feel that you can win them. And having that big serve is a huge element because not only, does it serve you just because it's fast, you get 3 points. So you're not having to actually initiate running back and forth like I did. I had to because serve was one of my weakest spots. But yeah, I feel that he can. I mean, the better his results get, then the more confidence he will have coming into that event.
Talk about some of the other members of the team that people might not know so well. I know you mentioned to me before we came on the air that, did you say it was Vasek Pospisil that is trained down there, or one of the other team members?
I feel that, I think, well, Jesse Levine I know really
right.
well.
That's who I was thinking of, sorry, yes.
Yeah. Jesse trained with my son Holden for 4 to 5 years down here, so we know him incredibly well.
Tell us about his game.
You know what? He's very, very fast. He's very crafty. You have to beat Jesse. I mean, he will die until the last ball. He's a lefty, which serves. I mean, another bonus. And he's young, and being around Martin and that group, being so young, is such an asset because you feel like you're something even before you really are something, because you're around all the greatest players in the world playing for their countries.
Okay. We did have a tweet here. Do you mind answering it if you possibly could, Carlin? And of course, you can tweet us here at Next Sports Star. Ralph tweets in from Burlington and says, "Why don't they play now until September?"
I don't really believe that all of these the men's teams would actually get the best players if they played it in just 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good answer to it because of their other commitments, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So now people are all excited about the Canadian team. You know how big this is for Canadian tennis up here, Carlin, but Novak Djokovic and his Serbian team beat the States. And Canada's got to go up against them next. If you were laying odds on the game, I'm not saying you're betting a bet. If you were laying odds in the game, would you say that Canada would be like, 10 to 1, 20 to 1 to have a chance to beat this team, or would you think it would be much closer than that?
I think it's going to be closer than you think.
That's good news.
Yeah, I really do. I feel that when you have a victory like this, this moment really stands out. So you really want to push forward even harder. So you almost go that extra length, and you want it so badly because they are the first team, Canadian team, men's team. So I think it's going to be closer than you think.